Welcome to John Redmann, Power of Attorney, the show that aims to empower you through knowledge of the law. I'm attorney John Redmann. Shauna Sanford is out on assignment and can't be with us today. This week we're very excited to be joined by Mark Moreau, director of an organization that we've talked about on this show many times, the Southeast Louisiana Legal Services. We'll talk about all the various ways that Southeast Louisiana Legal Services can help those who can't afford legal services or legal counsel in civil cases. We'll tackle what kinds of cases they take, who is eligible to receive help, how to get help, and much more. It's a two-part series, today and another show. And because this is a topic that is so important to so many people who may be watching at home, we're going to be covering it in those two episodes in broad detail today and then in more detail in the second episode. So we'll talk to Mr. Moreau right after this break. Welcome back. I'm so excited to welcome Mark Moreau to Power of Attorney. Mark has been the director of Southeast Louisiana Legal Services for more than 20 years. Mark, it's a pleasure to have you on the show with us. Thank you so much for everything you do for the community, but thank you for coming here today to be with us to talk about all these services that here in the greater New Orleans area and in many parishes, other offices of Southeast Louisiana Legal Services, what you do. Thank you for being here.
Well, thank you for the opportunity.
Well, good. There's a lot of ground to cover, so I want to just plunge right in. Why don't we start with having you define what is Southeast Louisiana Legal Services?
Well, Southeast Louisiana Legal Services is a civil legal aid program for low-income people. And we have 6 offices throughout Southeast Louisiana. We represent about half the state's poverty population, and that population varies from about 400,000 to 700,000 people. Wow. So there's a tremendous demand and need for our services. We are funded in part by the National Legal Services Corporation, which was a federal corporation that was set up to fund and start civil legal aid in America. And basically every county in America now has a civil legal aid program like ours. Now, if you're from the New Orleans area, you may remember us as New Orleans Legal Assistance. But a few years ago, we merged with Southeast Louisiana Legal Services and changed our name to Southeast Louisiana Legal Services.
Well, and as an attorney, we always called it NOLAC, New Orleans Legal Services.
Right, everybody calls us NOLAC, and they probably will for the next 40 years.
Yeah, well, you know, I mean, a rose by any other name would smell as sweet, and it is such an important service you provide. In fact, we have sort of I think it's a news exclusive. Aside from helping in so many areas, landlord-tenant disputes, family disputes, tax, many people might have heard that you're even helping people understand their BP claims. There's a very big announcement that we can make on this show. Some people may have heard this, but many will not have heard it, about helping people with a new category of law. Why don't you announce it?
Well, we just received a grant from the Attorney General to help people with home mortgages, and the nature of the services that we can provide haven't been specifically defined yet, but it seems to be wide open to helping homeowners save their homes, whether it's through foreclosure or some other threat to their home. And we're kind of excited about it because we've done this work for many years, but now we'll have more attorneys to work in that area. The other thing that's unique about this program is there are no income limitations, so we can consider folks who may be above the general poverty guidelines. A lot of our services are limited by one's income level.
Right. So part of what's new here is, in light of what you see in the papers every day, is people who have been trying to live the American dream. They're working hard, they're doing everything right, but because of the economy, their houses are underwater. In other words, financially underwater. They do everything right, but the house value is going down, 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 and inflation and everything is, they can't keep up with their house notes and they're going to lose their houses. Now, people, even if you make good money in your job, but you can't keep up with your house notes, in the coming weeks, months if not weeks, Southeast Louisiana Legal Services may be able to offer legal assistance to help keep those mortgage companies at bay.
Right, we could help with loan modifications and Chapter 13 bankruptcy reorganizations if necessary. Field should be wide open, and the program should last for at least 3 years.
That's fantastic, and it's going to make a big difference for so many people. And as an attorney, I got a lot of people who call me and ask if we can do that, and that's not something we specifically do in my office, although we try and direct people, and we certainly direct a lot of people to you guys.
It's a very special area of the law, and the thing that we're excited about is we'll have attorneys who specialize in that area of law alone, rather than trying to understand many different areas of the law.
Right, and that's so important because, as the saying goes, jack of all trades, master of none. You have the ability to have lawyers focus on certain areas of practice and know that area very well, versus try and learn 10 different areas of practice and not know any of them.
Yes, our lawyers are generally, we have about 60 lawyers now, so we are one of the larger law firms in the state. Many of our lawyers are generalists, but we also have a lot of specialists, people who have expertise in one particular area of the law, and we see that as a great strength in our program, that we have a combination of generalists and then also experts. And with this merger, where we're now covering 22 parishes in Southeast, we're hoping to figure out a way to, no matter which office you go into, if you need an expert in one of the offices, maybe outside your neighborhood, you'll be matched up with that person, hopefully, or that person will be involved in your case. Recently, I was looking at some of our statistics for Jefferson Parish, which is one of our bigger parishes here locally, and I was kind of stunned to see that we had over 60 lawyers and employees working on cases from Jefferson Parish, even though we don't have physically that many people stationed in Jefferson.
Wow.
So we're sort of moving towards a regional law firm approach to
the beauty
practice of law.
With the beauty of the internet, I mean, now in addition to phones and faxes, with the beauty of the internet, email, and even Skype, you can maybe even have meetings that happen across the internet, and have a lawyer who knows one area very well who might be in North Louisiana.
And during Katrina, we had to do a lot of our intake by telephone because our clients were displaced in just about every state in the country. So staff became much more comfortable with doing that.
Wow.
And I know personally, I had, I think, a client in Hawaii and a client in Alaska. Never saw either one of them face to face, but we were able to resolve the problem that they had in Louisiana.
Very same experience for me too. After Katrina, my office was wiped out, but we were working out of my living room, dining room, and the empty rooms of my house. But we were representing clients who were dispersed all over the country, and we still represent clients all over the place. But let's switch gears a little bit and define a little further about what types of cases Southeast Louisiana Legal Services handles, and after we do that, let's talk about who qualifies and who doesn't. Okay. But let's talk about first what types of cases you handle in broad brushstrokes.
Okay, sure. Well, I want to right off the bat say that we don't handle criminal defense work, that we're prohibited by federal law from doing that. So we focus on civil problems, and we generally don't handle what one would call a fee-generating case, which is a civil case where a private attorney would expect to get a fee from the award.
Typical example is a
car accident case or
medical malpractice.
Right. So our two largest areas of practice since Katrina have been family law and housing law, but we also do consumer debt and income security and employment law. We actually currently have a very broad range of civil cases that we take. In the last 10 years, we've gotten into income tax law, which has become a much bigger problem for low-income people, particularly working-class people.
Define what is income tax law?
Well, that would be if you had a dispute with the Internal Revenue Service, like they're auditing you on something, or you owe them money and you want to work out a deal with them.
Okay.
If you have a case that goes to tax court because you couldn't reach agreement with them on an issue and you want to have a judge decide that issue.
Okay. we mentioned before briefly, or I might have mentioned, you're even helping people with BP claims. Now, there's a lot of lawyers advertising BP, and lawyers can make money on these BP claims. How is it what are you doing with respect to BP claims?
Well, we're helping people with economic loss claims and the medical stuff, and helping them evaluate their options. And most of our clients tend to be, I guess, the most disadvantaged clients, the ones that would have a hard time working with private lawyers for whatever reasons. They don't have documentation, or they have low literacy levels.
Maybe a lot of lawyers have already turned them away.
Exactly. Or they have smaller claims.
Okay.
And some of the more difficult ones. So we, based on our experiences during Katrina with the road home claim administration, we realized that there would be a certain part of the population that would struggle with the normal procedures for getting relief. And we did, convince BP that was
That's wonderful.
That was something that they should look into and invest in, and they bought into it. And so we have an opportunity to work with those folks who are generally really needy.
Well, we're running short on time for this segment, but another category I understand that you work in is called title clearing. Tell us what that is.
Yes, that's an outgrowth of our Katrina work. Right after Katrina, we talked to the state and said, look, if you're going to award these billions of dollars in grants, you're going to need to clear title to property, because property, there's not clear title to a lot of properties in Louisiana. Like, there are over 26,000 homes in the New Orleans area where there was no clear title because people had an open successions for generations.
And to say that in more plain English, that means you need to make sure you have the rightful owner of the property, or owners.
Right, established by a legal procedure.
Okay.
And that was a Herculean task for the state, and we helped out by helping people clear, do the successions, identify the owners, get some legal document that would establish their right to the road home claim so that they could then rebuild their home.
Great.
And we ended up clearing title to about 1,100 properties, and that generated about $72 million in disaster assistance grants.
And you didn't do that for a portion of what was paid. You just did that on a modest charge per person, or how did you get paid? Or did you get paid?
Well, the state actually paid. We said this is a state economic and social problem. The state really needs to contribute to the solution, because there's not adequate resources to address this new legal problem, which is just huge and overwhelming. And they understood that, and they funded it, which I thought was great.
Wonderful. Well, I hate to cut you off. We need to take a break here. What a wonderful blessing for all those 1,100 property owners. We need to go to break here. Coming up, we'll be talking about questions from you viewers, and following up on this fascinating discussion right after this.